Chapter 7. Past meets present. Oh. Ex-boyfriend meets new boyfriend, I suddenly realized. Also, I love your little turtleneck. You look cute. I frowned at the display in my hand as I read over the briefing file I'd gotten yesterday. Charisse neglected to mention that Trent and his group would arrive today. I thought I would have a little more time. Though I'd read most of it last night, nerves had taken hold and I was going through it again. ARI had to cancel our training session at the last minute, so that gave me some extra time before I had to meet them. It was a little hard to focus. ARI said he would be overseeing everything, but they called him away. I couldn't reach Caleb or Vanessa either, and not that I felt I needed oversight, but the fact the three of them were gone meant they were sent somewhere without me. And I wasn't even informed. Don't like that. Granted, it didn't matter whether or not they told me about it, but we were teammates, so it felt strange to be out of the loop. And it was frustrating being the only one left behind. I guess they're like, well, we have this other serious thing. Don't tell the queen, because she needs to focus on this thing. Just need, like, the added stress. But it sucks, because you still have added stress of, like, what are they doing? I looked at the display again, trying to keep my mind on the task at hand. Yep. According to this report, Trent's group was coming to Endgame to look at research records regarding fairy espers. I already knew that part. Endgame had multiple tiers of access for their research division and their materials. Most were unavailable to anyone outside the organization. Some were publicly available to anyone who wanted to look over them. Somewhere in the middle was a selection of materials you could get proprietary access to if you had special permission, or some kind of official backing, like from the Unified Triad government, who was, of course, funding the research at Trent's facility, so that was how they could get a peek at things. They wanted to look at information Endgame had about the structure of F-class psi waves for the purposes of developing medical technology. It sounded like something Trent would have been interested in. There was some fairy rook reported as working in a clinic in Delphine. This person could apply biokinetic abilities to other people, resulting in some kind of healing ability. It wasn't some trivial thing. The reports were that this person had the ability to regenerate limbs and major organs aside from the heart and brain. Okay. If true, that was incredible for so many reasons. Mainly because nano-rooks weren't able to apply their biokinesis to other people. They had an innate ability to regenerate more quickly from injuries, but it was a passive skill that affected only their own bodies. Most of them couldn't do targeted healing, nor could they heal others. This rook in Delphine, if reports were true, had an amazing ability. Trent's lab had done some work with an anonymous fairy rook able to do something similar, but on a much smaller scale. They were hoping to study and replicate the psi waves being used by these espers. We had devices that could emit psi waves, something on par with what Endgame considered low-level infantry. They were sometimes used as weapons, but more often in a utilitarian capacity, such as construction work. It was about as close as a non-esper could get to our abilities. But they'd never been able to replicate rank-level specialized psi. I wonder what makes them think they can replicate fairy ranks easier. Yeah, I mean, it's something, it's not nano-related, probably. I'm guessing it's blood. I'm gonna guess it's all about something in the blood, or DNA, or something. I don't know. Fairy psi had some incongruities compared to nano-espers, so maybe that was why. Either way, it was interesting research. But given that fairies were uncommon, they had a shortage of research material to work with. Hence their reason for coming to Endgame. Now though, Endgame was worried they could actually be looking for something else in the science division's research. Wow, mouth, can you please work with me? Science division's research. Thank you. Which brought me to the other element of the case. Unregistered espers joining the dissidents on Syrah. It was uncommon for ranked espers to make it to adulthood without being detected. Those who did always tried to find ways to avoid recruitment into Endgame or other factions. It seemed like that was the fate of most unregistered Espers eventually. Finding ways to avoid it included traveling off-world for those who could manage it. For that reason, Syrah supposedly had a high number of unregistered Espers living there. The Triad had, at several points, requested Endgame to round them up. It sparked protests every time, and Endgame had never followed up on the request. That Espers were showing up in the fighting now wasn't that strange. It was the nature of the Espers they'd encountered that was the problem. It started with an attack on a government guard outpost. There were reports of Esper-like abilities being used, and one person arrested was experiencing burnout. He was the one Charisse had mentioned. But like she said, he wasn't an Esper, so why burnout symptoms? Both he and another person had casual connections to Trent's lab. I sat back in my seat, mulling it over. The current theory was some sort of experimental product that allowed normal humans to temporarily use Psi. The burnout patient didn't have any devices, implants, or drugs in his system, though. What does that leave, then? No devices, implants, or drugs. I mean, it could be something they can't detect yet. Thank you. None that were detectable, anyway. What he did have was connections to a lab working on psi-mimicking technology. Trent, please don't be involved in something like this. Even if we had nothing to do with each other anymore, it didn't erase the 2 years we spent together. I didn't want to find out he was part of something terrible, and that he used you to further his work in it. Ugh. I flipped to the next page of the report, scanning the images of Trent and the 2 people coming with him to Endgame. He was the only intern in the group. I wonder if... Oh, hello. Do we really have to do this now? I flicked my eyes towards the door, sensing Heidi's presence a few seconds before she came in. Our eyes met briefly. She looked away and headed to the galley without acknowledging me. I sighed, watching her order a drink. Maybe I should pull my head out of this report for a while and try to just talk to her. Things were still tense every time we saw each other, and I wasn't a fan. I had never dealt with a situation like this before, so I wasn't quite sure how to approach it. We'd had group projects throughout school, so it wasn't as if I was a stranger to teamwork or getting along with others. And we all competed for a limited number of first-tier slots, so I wasn't a stranger to competition either. But there had never been any unpleasantness between myself and the other students. Maybe because fighting with each other was a waste of energy none of us had to spare. Most of us just wanted to pass our tests and get some sleep. What should I do? I mean, I'm supposed to be cautious, so I could give her space. But she doesn't give me space. Every time we've interacted with her, it's kind of been on her doing. You know, like she kind of initiates our conversation. She comes and finds me, she starts crap, blah, blah, blah. Maybe I should kind of put her on the opposite foot for a change, approach her. I mean, I don't know. I'm fighting against like my own inclinations of like, I hate that there's this tension because I'm worried Heidi's gonna go and get one of these Psi implant thingies that's like not exactly legal and up her Psi ability way too much and it goes out of control, and then that's gonna be a thing. I mean, that's a possible way this could go. Otherwise, she is capable. She's got like a snotty attitude, but she is capable. I'd like to have her on my team. Alright, I'm flipping a coin. Okay, heads. I'm going to be flexible and try to talk to her with my mouth on my head. Or tails, I'm going to turn tail. and give her some space, like a cautious coward. Hiya! Okay. Heads. Fine. The coin hath spoken. I'm gonna try to talk to her. I just needed to talk to her. Setting aside thoughts of Esper experiments and whatever else was going on in the outside world, I needed to be able to get along with other agents here. Heidi got her drink and sat at a table across the room. After a moment's deliberation, I joined her. She looked up when I reached her table, seeming both surprised and annoyed. Yeah, weren't expecting me to seek you out, were you? Well, I can't exactly be shocked by that. May I sit? If I say no, will you leave? I expected that kind of answer, but I sat anyway and gave her a slight smile. No. She huffed in annoyance, but didn't move away. I knew you would do that. I just want to talk to you. Well, I don't. And I wanted to thank you for your demonstration yesterday during my training session. That's a good opener. Alright, good job, Morgan. Why? Because it made you look better when you were able to pull off a decent Psy-burst right after that? No, because watching you helped me figure out a way to improve on what I was doing. If you hadn't demonstrated, I wouldn't have been able to pull off that decent Psy-burst. She seemed surprised when I said that. Kill her with kindness. A frown passed over her features as she looked away, chewing her lip. It's not like I was doing it to help you out. I only did it because he asked me to. Maybe that's true, but I wanted to thank you anyway. It's difficult being put on the spot in front of a lot of people like that. You don't have to thank me for doing something like that. I'm not doing it because I have to. I just wanted to. For a moment, neither of us said anything. I half expected her to get up and leave. Instead, her eyes went to the display I'd put down next to my cup. Is that an assignment briefing report? Yeah. I got it yesterday and was taking a last-minute look. What? Are they giving you some puff assignment to show you off or something? I'm not sure I'd call it a puff assignment, but they aren't throwing me out into a combat situation or anything. Lucky you. I don't know about lucky. I guess it's all I'm capable of right now. I know that better than anyone. She said nothing to that either. Listen, Heidi, I get that you're upset with me for being here. For taking the position you wanted. For taking the tutor you wanted. And I'm sorry those things happened. Well, she looks a little contrite, at least. She slipped lower in her seat without saying anything, like a child sulking. I realized again how young some of these agents were. You're really going to just apologize like that? Like it changes anything? I don't like that you're upset with me. It's ridiculous that we've been walking around frustrated, glaring at each other, making snide remarks. It makes more sense to talk about the issue, doesn't it? It's not like talking and apologizing will change anything. You're right. It won't change that I'm here, and it won't change the rank I have. But just because that's true doesn't mean we have to compete. I mean, we could help each other instead. Like you helped me yesterday. And how are you going to help me? Well, you want to train to become a queen rank. I gestured at myself. If you didn't know, I am a queen rank. I could maybe help you out with that. I am one of those, if you didn't notice. I noticed. Trust me. Everyone's been talking about it non-stop since you got here. I'm still learning, but at some point I'll be able to help you with your training. You? Help me? Do you even know how you do anything you do? Well, not all of it. Not yet. Then how are you going to explain any of it to me? How long, exactly, am I supposed to wait for the supposed help? No one said anything about waiting. It's not like one person has to be more skilled than another at something for studying together to be useful. Heidi scoffed. Look, I appreciate the gesture, but this isn't like going to your university to study history or whatever you studied there. How would you know? Have you ever studied history at a university? I've been in Endgame since I was 8. I haven't studied anything but this. Exactly. Listen, I may not have grown up here, and I know that, to you, I'm just an outsider. And my experience elsewhere seems useless. But sometimes a different perspective can be valuable. Regardless of what you think, my way of studying is why I'm learning fast here. And I will catch up to everyone else. When I do, I'll help you too. If you want my help. Heidi sighed, seeming to not know what to say. After a long moment, she stood again and picked up her cup as she started away. Thanks for the offer, but you're wrong. About all of that. And she was gone. I mean, it was the most civil conversation we had. She still has a stick up her butt, but Rome wasn't built in a day. At least I tried, right? Oh, she's back. Hey. Or maybe not? She had stopped about halfway across the room and was looking back at me. Good luck with your puff assignment. Hey, you know what? I'll take that. It's a step. It's a step in the right direction. I'm happy I wasn't cautious. That was all she said before she left. It wasn't much, but it was at least better than before. You know, if I can repair things with her, that'll make it a little easier on ARI, hopefully. Potential. I flopped back in my seat, staring down at the table. Maybe I should just go down to the lobby. Trent and his group were supposed to arrive soon, and I planned to be there to greet them. I wouldn't be telling them I was assigned to oversee them. Instead, I'd say I volunteered due to knowing Trent. Hey, our girl's picking up on Endgame's ways pretty quickly. But I didn't want to seem too enthusiastic either. I grabbed my display, planning to go back to my room first. As I reached the door, I heard voices in the corridor heading towards the lounge, and one of them was familiar. Vaughn! They were back! Oh God! What happened to my sweet baby? Is he okay? My face lit up when she, Ari, and Caleb appeared, but that turned to concern the moment I saw Ari's face. Oh my God! What happened?
It's nothing to worry about. Only a minor injury.
Half your face is covered by a nano-healing web! Explain! For individuals with a bio-expansion, a healing web is a pattern of light that is sometimes visible on the epidermis due to concentrated packets of nanites repairing tissue damage on and around injuries. Faint healing webs are sometimes seen on people without bio-expansions, as all nanosystems come with limited ability to regenerate small injuries. But the healing webs on those with bio-expansions are bright enough to be seen clearly on the skin and can cover huge portions of the body if one's injuries are severe enough.
There were minor lacerations on the right side of my face and neck. Yeah, because half your face was scraped off when you teleported in front of an exploding building to rescue a civilian. But call it minor lacerations if you want.
Dang.
Should have seen him before the nanites healed most of it.
It sounds like more than minor lacerations, Ari.
It is not as bad as they are making it out to be.
An exploding building sounds significant. I assume this was on Syrah? Why didn't you shield yourself?
Managing a shield while actively teleporting is difficult as it is. Even more so when two people are involved. I was more concerned with ensuring the civilian was shielded than myself.
Why do I feel like this is going to be a thing that happens later? Where we're going to need like a teleporting and a shield, and it's like, oh no, I can already see it, no! But will it have to be like our girl shielding while he teleports, or the other way around? I don't know. I'm getting vibes.
There's been an escalation in the situation on Syrah. Looks like an order came through from the Triad to suppress the rebellion at all costs. Talks of a ceasefire have gone to hell. We were trying to get civilians out of a settlement that's become a stronghold for the dissidents when a riot broke out. Somehow the government got some people in and... well, looks like they don't give a damn who they shoot up as long as they get control back.
That's horrible.
Since some of us got hurt, I reckon Endgame will give them a stern talking to. But we have to maintain neutrality, so there won't be much more to it than that.
Was anyone seriously injured?
ARI got the worst of it, but all the injuries were fairly minor. This time.
Caleb went to the galley, saying he'd grab something for the three of them as Vaughn and Ari sat down near the door. Instead of taking a chair, I moved towards Ari to get a closer look at his face. He raised an eyebrow as I leaned in.
Looking at it will not help. I believe we've had this conversation before.
I want to look anyway. It's true, we had this conversation when we first met.
Do you even know what you're looking at?
Hey, normal people may not be eligible for bioenhancements like this, but I know how they work. The denser the strands are, the more damage they're repairing. Given that there aren't any visible injuries anymore, there's probably a lot of subdermal damage they're working on. So there.
If they're subdermal, looking at it will not reveal anything in particular to you.
But I can still tell that the damage was worse than you're letting on. Otherwise, you wouldn't have this amount of webbing left even after they healed the surface.
It doesn't matter how much you fret. It won't change that the injuries were, in fact, minor.
It's not minor! Your definition of minor is definitely wrong. We glared at her when she started laughing. Well, I glared. Ari looked at her with his normal expression.
Oh, don't mind me. I'm just sitting here watching your adorable flirting with great enjoyment.
Shut up. Ari looks away like, eh. My face heated up. I'm not flirting.
Uh-huh. Keep telling me that as you gently cradle Ari's face in your hands.
I yanked my hands away from his face, annoyed at her for teasing us, myself for how hot my face was, and Ari for looking unbothered by the entire conversation. How could they be so calm about him being hurt? I mean, it's probably not the first time. Even if they were used to it, they shouldn't be this casual about it.
On another subject, I didn't have time to ask about your family last night. Are they well?
You're just trying to change the subject, aren't you?
Oh? They finally got off their asses and gave you back your net connection.
He'd returned in time to hear that and slide a tray of drinks to the center of the table, pulling a cup of tea off for himself. They're all fine. Mum was glad to finally get a message from me. Apparently, she's also been badgering Endgame about not being able to send messages. Good job, Mum. She said Dad was giving it another week before he came down here personally to demand to see me.
That would have been fun to watch.
Well, I can't disagree with that, but I'm glad they didn't have to. They were pretty shocked by everything that happened, but they're adjusting.
What about your brother on Syrah? Oh yeah, you've got a brother up in the middle of that mess.
He's not in the middle of it. He's in a fringe settlement. They're dealing with some supply shortages, but there's not been any violence. Most of the people there are just normal citizens who want to live peacefully.
That probably describes most of the people up there, really. When was the last time your parents heard from your brother? With communications down.
Well, Dad has some connections, I guess. They've been able to talk to Oliver a few times on a government channel. I think the last time they spoke to him was a few days ago.
I'm glad to hear it. I'm sure it's pretty nerve-wracking having anyone you care about up there.
They've been more worried about me, to be honest. I mean, at least they're hearing from Oliver regularly. It was just silence from me. Mum was terrified I'd been sent up there to fight on the front lines or something.
No one's putting you anywhere near fighting anytime soon.
Yes, I tried to assure her of that. Anyway, as for everyone else... Wayne finds the whole thing fascinating, and it's inspired him to try to get into the Special Investigations Department. Brian is carrying on as usual. he's still studying, so it wasn't as much of a shake-up for him as I expected it to be. He's already settling in. Daniel took it a little harder than everyone else, but his fiancée refused to let him leave without her. It was apparently dramatic and very romantic.
I'm pleased to learn they're all well.
Well, considering you reached out to them before I did, I'm surprised you weren't already aware.
Oh-ho?
What now?
You reached out when? Right after that meeting we all had with Magnus. He told you about it. He wouldn't shut up about it. So he finally went hunting for a way to reach out to Morgan's family to assure them she was alright.
Aww, and he didn't want to let her know. Cutie.
I told him it was a waste of time, but he insisted. Really now? Morgan was concerned they would worry about her, and was concerned Endgame wouldn't take the time to give them updates about her status. I only reached out once to tell them she was under my care and that she was adapting.
And it wasn't a waste of time. They were really happy you contacted them. Mom said thank you. She also said it would have been nice if you had replied to her thank you message with something other than a short note. Especially one about how relaying their message to me might be upsetting, and that you recommended they wait until I could reach out myself. But they were still grateful. Me too. I mean, I would have liked it if you told me you'd talk to them, but thank you for taking the time to do that.
Just a second.
That's Vaughn. Vaughn loudly sipped her drink, watching us with amusement over the top of her glass. I was doing my best to ignore her. Vaughn is such a mood. I love her.
Anyway, anything else interesting they reported?
For the most part, no. I mean, they're normal people. They wouldn't have anything to say that would interest anyone outside the family. Though, Mum heard from Trent recently. I thought they were hiding out, but apparently not to the point he couldn't find them. My suspicion meter is slowly and yet steadily increasing with this boy.
Who? It's the acquaintance of Morgan's who was also on Syrah. The one who will be with the researchers arriving today. Did you not read the briefing report? Probably just skimmed it as usual. It's not my assignment. Anyway, acquaintance is kind of vague. What exactly is your history with this guy? Ex-boyfriend, maybe? Wait, seriously?
It's not that shocking, Vaughn. Yes, he's an ex. We broke up a year ago. I haven't seen or spoken to him since then.
Oh? Vaughn, none of us want to hear that relationship drama.
Thank you, Caleb. I think?
I want to!
It's not that interesting. A year ago, he left for his internship on Syrah. I didn't hear from him after that until right before I came here.
Wait. This guy just never contacted you again after leaving, and that was how he broke up with you? What a creep! When are they arriving today? Vaughn? No. I can tell what you're thinking. And no. Come on! What kind of behavior is that? That boy needs a talking to! I suspect giving him a talking to might make it difficult for Morgan to complete her assignment. Speaking of which, I believe your first report should include the fact that he was the only one who knew you were an Esper, potentially F-class at that, and that he contacted you in recent weeks.
I was planning to...
Whoa now, what? These revelations are freaking me out! Did he just say you're a fairy Esper?
You didn't know? I assumed Magnus told you all. I mean, Ari was aware. I think fairies can tell when other fairies are around. That's just my guess, though.
I figured it out on my own, but I assumed you'd have put it together as well, Vanessa.
This boy's too smooth. Like, he just says everything with such confidence that you don't question how he knows what he knows. And I'm like, he just lets things slip and nobody calls him out on it because he's just like, cool as a cucumber.
The fact that everyone in the entire organization isn't talking about it should have clued you into that.
Good point.
Still, given you can mimic ARI psi waves and he's a fairy, I guess it makes sense. Not sure a normal queen could do that. Oh. Yeah. Yeah, that's an interesting point. Sylvie never got the hang of your style of teleportation, did she?
I take it Sylvie was the last queen?
She did not. Nor the abilities of any other F-class in Endgame. Not that there are many of them.
So the previous queen couldn't mimic fairy espers. Interesting.
Still, this ex-boyfriend of yours sounds suspicious as hell.
Thank you, Caleb.
I agree.
Okay, interesting. Defend Trent. Pfft, no, I don't know him from anybody, so Trent can get hecked. I can agree with Caleb, which I kind of already did. Or I could be cautious and reserve judgment. No, it's suspicious as hell. I'm with Caleb. I don't care. It does seem a little strange. There are a lot of potential connecting points, which is suspicious. But even if Trent had ulterior motives for contacting me, I'm not sure what they could have been. What would he hope to gain?
Maybe he wanted to drag you off to Syrah to join the cause.
He would know that was going to be a complete failure.
Maybe he just wanted to rekindle things.
That would have been a failure too.
Perhaps he wanted to gather data from someone he believed could be a fairy. Even without involvement in illicit experimentation, that would align with his research. Any man brave enough to ghost an ex for a year, then show up to ask if he can get some data about their secret psi abilities would have to have a spine of titanium.
Yeah, it's a good point.
Any ex-boyfriend of mine that tried that would have regretted it.
Good for you, Caleb. I can't argue there. And Trent does not. I've seen him go up against roaches, so I can attest to the decided lack of titanium.
Perhaps. But even their official research is about being able to mimic F-class abilities. Perhaps he wanted to explore a queen's mimicry skill.
I already said even I didn't know what my rank was. There was no way he could have. What if Trent is also a fairy, and so he was able to tell that you were too? Maybe?
Is that really true? Based on your history, isn't it possible he surmised you were able to stay hidden for so long, not only because you were a fairy Esper, but because you were a queen rank capable of concealing your psi waves?
I guess that's possible, though he never said anything like that to me. In any case, I'm not even interested in why he reached out to me, just if he's got any connection to the rebellion and the alleged experimentation going on.
However, it would be best to stay on your guard until you know his motives. My main concern is whether you'll be able to be impartial in all this. If you still have feelings for—
I don't. I assure you. I don't have any negative feelings for how things ended either. And frankly, I moved on months ago.
But I mean, I also want to make it completely clear, if he pulls some kind of ex-boyfriend stupidity while he's here, we will kick his ass. Fawn, please don't jeopardize the success of Morgan's first assignment by doing anything unreasonable. Hey, I'm just saying, she's ours now. He has to keep his grubby hands off. All that aside, assuming he knows something, you think you'll be able to get anything out of him?
Who can say? I've never tried to get anything out of someone before. But Trent likes to talk about his work. If I can get him rambling, maybe he'll blurt out something he shouldn't.
I'm sure you'll do fine.
It's almost time for them to arrive, so I was planning to head to the lobby soon.
I need to find Mara. I guess I'll be heading off too. Caleb and I were supposed to report to the medical center.
Oh, I'm sure Dr. Sasaki will be thrilled that you've all been in here for the last half hour talking to me.
I don't much care whether he is or not. The only reason I'm even going is so I don't have to listen to Ari's nagging. And because I swear I'll murder that jerk if I wake up to find him lurking in my room again.
I'm sorry. The mental image of Dr. Sasuke just like, you know, sneaking through the night into your room to like peer into your eye, like, are you experiencing any medical distress? It's just really funny to me. Oh, of course he's like that. Well, I'm sure his route's gonna be a lot of fun. Dr. Sasuke did that?
Caleb has a bad habit of not checking in when he's supposed to. And Sasuke's a bloody stalker when it comes to his precious surrogate baby brother.
Oh? Baby brother, huh? She stood and stretched, giving me a slight smile.
Anyway, Morgan, I'll check in on you later, okay?
Sure. I mean, I'm not planning to do much but say hello today, so I'm not sure I'll have much to report. Vaughn leaned down and looked me dead in the eye as she reached over to tuck my hair behind my ear. Oh, she's doing that mom thing again.
Save the report for your actual report. I don't care how long it's been. Seeing this guy again might be harder than you expect. I'm going to check in to see how you're doing, not to listen to a report about your assignment.
Thanks. I'm sure I'll be fine. But thanks.
Good. I'll talk to you then. And I'll see you two later.
After Vaughn left, Caleb reluctantly followed suit, leaving me alone with Ari.
If you would like, I can go with you today.
I don't think it's necessary. I'm just going to go see him and get a feel for things.
I suppose that's logical. I'm concerned this may be more difficult for you than you realize.
I appreciate the concern. From all of you. But I really think you're underestimating me here. I may not be great at defending myself yet, but I'm not so fragile I can't handle talking to someone.
I don't mean to underestimate. Nor do I believe you are fragile. It's just my experience that emotions are difficult.
You find emotions difficult? I would never have guessed.
Morgan, I'm being serious. While I am aware I'm not the most emotionally demonstrative person, it isn't as if I lack them.
I didn't mean it that way.
Regardless of the fact you feel you've moved on, you may find it difficult to work on an assignment that means suspecting someone you once cared for. Someone you feel you know well. It is all right if you find it challenging. You are allowed to ask for help.
I was a little taken aback by what seemed to be sincere concern about this. They were all overthinking it. I reached for Ari's hands, giving them a gentle squeeze. You startled him again. He looked down at them, seeming startled by the sudden touch. Thank you for worrying about me. I promise I'll ask for help if I need it. But I'll be okay. Especially today.
I understand.
And Ari, you please be careful too. I know you can't always help getting hurt, but this worries me. I hesitantly reached up to touch the web on his face. A lot. Ari caught my hand, and it seemed like he gave it the barest hint of a squeeze before releasing it. Ah, my heart is so romantic.
I'll do my best.
You'd better get going too, or Dr. Sasuke will come looking for you.
Very well.
Alone again, I let out a sigh. Talking to them had made me even more nervous about it all. Dang it. But it wasn't like I could hide here and avoid everything. I guess that means I should get going. First, I needed to go back to my room and leave my handheld display there, and grab my jacket. I finished the last of my drink and left the lounge. I adjusted my collar for what felt like the 20th time, twisting my neck from side to side. It probably needed to be properly broken in, The only other time I'd worn this uniform had been that meeting with Magnus. There was still a bit of imposter syndrome going on. The lift slowed to a stop, and I took a deep breath as the door slid open, revealing the lobby. Weirdly, I hadn't been down here much. It's a nice lobby. I suppose I hadn't had a reason to. It highlighted the fact that I hadn't left this building once since my arrival, though. But that was another matter. I raised my chin and stepped off, looking around. It was busy, but even so, I spotted Trent right away. My stomach fluttered anxiously. Everything I'd practiced saying over and over again flew out of my head as I leaned against a pillar a short distance from the front desk where they were being checked in. What if I screw this up? I didn't even know how I should approach him. He had no idea I'd be coming to greet them. What if I'm too obvious? What if he's really involved and I have to expose him? What if he's not involved and I don't learn anything? I took a slow breath and tried to focus. I'm just saying hello. I watched the familiar lines of his body as he spoke to the receptionist, as if something would give away his intentions. As if the possibility he was involved in the rebellion, or that he had ulterior motives for coming here, would somehow be written in his posture, or revealed by the awkward way he rubbed his neck. He always does that when talking to strangers. But of course, he looked the same as always, and there was nothing strange about his behavior. The other two people with him, a man and woman, had their backs to me, but I had seen their faces in the briefing report. Trent turned away from the desk, shuffling his luggage to the side to let one of the others step up to check in. Ah, the infamous Trent. We finally meet. He looked up and our eyes met. For a moment, he paused half bent over his bag, staring. It was as if it took a moment to realize who it was. Recognition, then disbelief flashed over his features. And then he was juggling whatever was in his hand and nearly dropped it as he tried to stow it in his bag. I smirked, amused he still had that clumsy streak. I left my place by the pillar as Trent finally got his things situated. He left his bags where they were and took 5 quick strides towards me, a radiant smile on his face. If he kisses you, I swear. Hello, Trent. Okay, just a hug, that's fine. He engulfed me in a hug before I got the hug out. The words out, leaning back so my feet lifted off the ground. Trent, put me down! He did so, laughing.
Hey, Moore. I missed you.
More, eh? And before I could respond, he leaned down to plant an enthusiastic kiss to my lips, stunning me and everyone in the immediate vicinity into absolute silence. I freaking knew this guy was gonna be like this. Gosh darn it.